This is Plant-Based Briefing. Stop Saying Factory Farming by Bohanec at thehumanehoax.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and this is the curated content plant-based podcast where I read to you articles with permission on a variety of plant-based and vegan topics in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Today's post is from Hope Bohanec. She's the projects manager for the national nonprofit United Poultry Concerns, and she's also the host of their Hope for the Animals podcast. That is one of my favorite podcasts I highly recommend. And she has been involved in animal protection and environmental activism for 30 years and is one of the key organizers of humanehoax.org, which is a collaborative effort of vegan activists, writers, and organizations who are working together to reveal the truth about quote-unquote humane animal agriculture. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Stop Saying Factory Farming by Hope Bohanec at thehumanehoax.org. Advocates fighting for farmed animals should be proud, as we have come a long way in educating the public about the horrors of animal agriculture. Just a couple decades ago, the only soy milk was in powder form. If you wanted a vegan cookie, you had to bake it yourself. And vegans often ventured into restaurants with trepidation for fear of their sanity and leave hungry. Now there are vegan chain restaurants and vegan donuts, alongside national media stories about caged hens, immobilized sows, and overcrowded cows. The number of animals killed in the U.S. is going down by the hundreds of thousands, and the fact that animals suffer to produce meat, dairy, and eggs is quickly becoming common knowledge. Vegan is now a household word. Much of this progress is the result of the strategic denouncement expressed by the powerful term factory farming. For decades, animal activists have inscribed the motto, "End Factory Farming," into brochures and splattered "Stop Factory Farming" on protest signs with red letters dripping like blood. This incriminating term conjures images of endless rows of animals in barren cages, filthy windowless warehouses, and animals suffering and dying on manure-covered concrete floors, images that are increasingly familiar and available to us through social media. The ubiquity of these images and conditions associated with factory farming has spawned a pervasive condemnation. Everyone, it seems, can rally together and agree that we must stop factory farming. But this rallying cry has created an unforeseen consequence, one that animal exploiters are taking full advantage of. Producers who sell the flesh and fluids of animals can simply state that their product is not factory farmed. It's organic, local, humane, cage-free. Insert any number of misleading labels here. Likewise, when consumers hear these offensive two words, they are now thinking, "Oh, but my meat, or dairy or eggs, isn't factory farmed. I buy at Whole Foods," or "it's organic," or "it's free range," etc. Watch your language. I so often hear farmed animal advocates say, 99% of meat, dairy, and eggs are factory farmed. Again, now a consumer will think that their humanely labeled animal products are the 1% that we have told them is acceptable because it is not factory farmed. Do animal rights activists actually believe that 1% of animal agriculture is somehow pampering the animals with comfortable, relaxed, happy lives, where there is no separation of families, no painful body mutilations, and no terrifying slaughter? It is simply untrue. All animal farming is factory farming. As long as animal bodies are commodified, there is exploitation and suffering. Dangerous common ground. The popular reprobation of the term factory farming has inadvertently created a demand for products labeled with euphemistic terms associated with alternative, small-scale animal farming. This was not the initial intention of the term. Many groups originally used the term for the purpose of ending all exploitation and killing of farmed animals as they do today. But there has been a shift in the last few years, a shift toward quote-unquote humane animal farming, and now everyone, it seems, can get behind ending factory farming, the animal rights activists as well as the consumers and producers of meat, dairy, and eggs. This is unintended and dangerous common ground, whereby the rhetoric of the animal rights movement has been appropriated by our opposition to promote the very products we seek to condemn. Now when we are denouncing animal products with the term factory farming, we are ironically repeating the marketing slogans of an increasing sector of the poultry and other animal industries. The term factory farming has come to imply that only the conditions the animals are kept in are of importance, and that taking an animal's life, the slaughter itself, is unproblematic. The marketing experts of the animal farming industry brandish this term to make people believe that as long as it is in a quote-unquote factory or industrial setting, so long as it's not a mega-sized farm, as long as the animal had some kind of minimally quote-unquote natural or comfortable life, then it's okay to slaughter the animal for the enjoyment of the conscientious consumer. Many organizations want to quote-unquote end factory farming, but still promote the killing of young animals for human consumption. These organizations support smaller farms with supposedly better conditions, but as I reveal in my book, The Ultimate Betrayal is Their Happy Meat, no label tells the whole story, and alternative farming can be just as bad and, in fact, no different from so-called factory farming for the animals and the environment. Not vegan. The term factory farming no longer implies a vegan message. It no longer necessarily suggests a desire to stop the exploitation and killing of farmed animals, and those who work towards this important goal must abandon the term, or we risk inadvertently repeating what has become a marketing slogan of our opposition. Instead, we should be more specific and use the term animal agriculture. This encompasses all animal farming. We must be careful to speak in ways that express the truths that all farming of animals is exploitive, all farming of animals is abusive, and there can never be a humane way to breed, confine, and kill animals for their flesh, milk, and eggs. Let's shift our language and the consciousness around this issue and push beyond quote-unquote humane exploitation. It's time to retire the term factory farming. What do we want? To stop animal farming. When do we want it? Now. You just listened to Stop Saying Factory Farming by Hope Bohanec at thehumanehoax.org. Hope is such an experienced and brilliant animal advocate. I learned so much from her writings, from her books, and from her podcast. Again, I highly recommend the Hope for the Animals podcast. It is one of my favorites. I learned so much from her and from her guests. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and this is Plant-Based Briefing. Thanks for listening.